Good morning, my dear students. Am I audible to you? Am I audible to you, students? Please respond, someone. Hello. Roll number 1 of A section. 17 series 401. Remove V before your roll number. Don't add anything before or after your roll number. Seventeen series 401. Every day when you join the class, you are adding V to your roll number, and I'm reminding you every day, and same has been continuing. And don't leave any spaces in between your roll numbers. 492 has left some space. After A0, you left some space and added 492. It should not be the case. When you are registering, the Zoom will ask you to register with your first name and second name. First name should be your hall ticket number, full 10-digit hall ticket number only, or roll number only. And second name may be your name. Roll number 492, turn on your video. B section, roll number 492. You left the space. Follow my instructions, please. Every day I have been insisting upon the same. And Sai Venela, Belakanti Yoga Nrsimha, Durga Chandan. You should not write your name along with your roll number. You have written your name. Shivani also. 4F1 Shivani. 4D9 K Sai Vamshi. So 72 persons are in the class. It's the time now 10:37. I'll wait for more 2 minutes. G4 Soumya, you also. Re-register with only roll number. Your name should be at the second name. Kishore Kumar, 416 Kishore Kumar also. G Kishore Kumar.
What, sir?
Name should be your second registration, second name in the registration. It should not be along with you. It should not be along with your roll number. Naveen also. Jagadishwar. C9 Naveen. G7 Jagadishwar. G4 Soumya. Durga Chandan C8. C5 Yogan Nrsimha. Sankirtana 493. Am I audible to all of you? "79 members joined the class."
Yes, sir.
"492, still you have not removed the space. 492. Otherwise, I will remove you from the class. So, how are you all doing? Hello? How are you all doing? Someone please respond so that I can confirm that you are listening to me. Only Durga Chandan is listening to me. So hopefully you are all doing good. Please try to confine to your homes. Follow the guidelines time to time. So this time it is very severely affecting the virus, spreading also very fast. So please take care of your health. Maybe in the next month you might be having your second mid and as well as followed by the end exams also, that you will be graduated very soon. Okay. Hope you are all doing good from your end also. I am also good. So welcome back to the class of Global Positioning Systems, GPS. So we will study in this class about the applications, that is GPS applications, right? So of course we have been studying about the few of the applications of the GPS from our unit 1 onwards. And now in detailed version of the each and every application has to be studied here. So before we start off, let me present you the syllabus of this unit, that is unit 5. Unit 5 is GPS applications. So GPS is originally meant for the military applications, for the military purpose, to track, to locate and track the enemy's targets. Later on, it has widened its wings into many areas. Of course, some of them are, the first one is the surveying, GPS in surveying. So civil engineers mostly will use the GPS technique for their surveying applications, which have made simpler the conventional techniques. And the second is mapping. So mapping personnel also will use the GPS. And GIS, that is Geographical Information System, GIS. This is also by the environmental science engineers, and of course civil engineers also will use this. GIS is used by both of them. Of course, aircraft landing system, that is precision approach aircraft landing system. Of course, about this we have already studied in our unit 4 just recently. Military is the first application of the GPS, and also in the space applications and intelligent transportation system. So this is land navigation purposes. Intelligent transportation system will come under the land navigation system. And after this, of course, some more topics. I don't know why he has mentioned here. We have already learned them in our unit 1. GPS orbital parameters. We already knew this. And the new topic is receiver independent exchange format, RINEX. So this is one of the special category of the GPS receiver. We'll study about them. And observation data and navigation message data parameters. Of course, some of them we already studied in our unit 3 and unit 2 in the form of GPS signals, and of course GPS receivers also. And GPS position determination, we already knew this in our unit 1. How to determine the position is using the distance principle. Distance is equal to speed into velocity. Speed is speed is the speed of the radio frequency signal, that is equivalent to speed of the light, and time is the time of travel of the RF signal from the satellite to the receiver. That is a simple thing. And one more technique we use here is the least squares method. So least squares method is another technique to measure the position or to know the position or to detect the position of a object to be navigated. So Unit 5, most of the topics of Unit 5 are present in the reference book, that is Understanding GPS Principles and Applications, that is by E.D. Kaplan and Christopher. Okay, so now I will change the presentation to today's class. Till now, only 95 members are present in the class. Okay, it is 10:46 almost. Okay, now I am muting you all. If you have any doubt to speak to me, you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you. I will unmute you and you can talk to me regarding anything. So this is the outline of the unit: GPS in surveying, GPS in mapping, GPS in GIS. And one more technique is the precision approach aircraft landing system, military and space applications, intelligent transportation system, and GPS orbital parameters, RINEX, observation data and navigation message data parameters, GPS position data determination, and lastly the least squares method. So we'll talk about so we have some or other point of the subject we have been listening or learning about the surveying, and here we concentrate much on what are the applications of GPS we know, and how the GPS is applied to solve the problems we learned. Now this unit totally covers the when exactly it has begun in the history and who has implemented that, and if any added features are there, that will be coming into the picture. So most of the basics we already learned, we have been learning throughout the subject, and here we will learn some more additional features of the GPS in specific applications. So we have learned till now in a broader sense, and now we are going to learn in a specific manner, right? So surveying, surveying, what is surveying? Surveying is used by the civil engineers, right? Civil people. So what for? That is for measuring locating the objects, and for the measuring the distance between them. So please make a note of this. Hello? Am I audible to you? Is there any interruption in the streamline? I hope. Okay, it's okay, right? Thank you. So please take this definition of surveying before we proceed. So surveying is the technique of determining the terrestrial or three-dimensional positions. Terrestrial or three-dimensional positions of points, three-dimensional positions of points, and the distances and angles between them. So listen, because we have to know what is surveying first, then we can apply the GPS into the surveying technique. So what is surveying as per the engineering dictionary terminology of the civil engineers? That is, surveying is a technique of determining the terrestrial and three-dimensional positions of points. So there are certain points. See, you might have seen most of the times when they are laying a national highway or land surveying purpose, most of the times in rural areas they will be knowing. So land will be surveyed. A surveyor will come from the Tahsildar's office and he will do the surveying technique there, where he will use some of the I think photograph like stands, and they will be viewing from a distance, and they will locate certain objects, and maybe a tall hill or maybe a tower or maybe a building which is visible to them in the nearby location, like that. So surveying is determining the terrestrial or three-dimensional positions of certain points and also finding out the distance between them, and also finding out the distance and angles between them. Of course, GPS is doing the same thing, right? So GPS is enabling us to locate an object or to track an object. So to locate an object means where it is present, what are the longitudes and latitudes of that point will be known to us. And similar object is to be detected. Then if we know the two longitudes and latitudes, that is two positions of the 2 points, then it is easy to calculate the distance between them. So for this purpose, civil engineers have their own conventional techniques before the introduction of the GPS. But when the GPS has come into picture and came into existence, then the people started using the GPS. So in this, we have very sophisticated equipment and tools that are developed to predict the GPS coverage and derive the position with centimeter accuracy. So underline this word, with a centimeter accuracy. See, we have studied about the GPS error sources and the amount of error caused due to various types of sources and the cumulative error of them. Of course, some of them are around 3 meters, some of them are around 100 meters. Because of SCA, it may be 100 or 100 to 150 meters. But here, the sophisticated equipment that was developed in the GPS is enabling the GPS to aid the surveying to know the position and derive the position with an accuracy of centimeter. Such a accuracy is possible with the application of the GPS in the surveying. Right? And the surveying applications got over navigational uses of the system and significant refinements in the use of carrier phase, dual frequency, post-processor, and differential positions were made. Of course, we all know this. We are using the carrier phase and of course the pseudo range measurements and carrier phase measurement. We are using the dual frequency L1 and L2 frequencies, and all the data gathered will be sent to the master station where the post-processing is done, and also the differential positions are calculated, that is by using a reference. So these all are applied in the surveying technique, and extreme accuracy is possible. So main advantage of usage of the GPS in surveying is to be more accurate. Is possible by applying the information on the satellite positions available after the fact to the data obtained in the field. So without the GPS, people used to locate certain objects, certain hills or certain trees, large trees which are very standard. They will be located by the civil engineers, and their positions they will be taking an approximation. Now if they are coupled with the GPS, then exact location of a tree or a hill, whatever is there, that will be known with the help of the satellites. Because in the GPS itself, we are using the satellites. So more accuracy is intended and more accuracy is achieved by the use of the GPS in the surveying technique. And the crew, of course, in our college also you might be seeing the civil engineers. A group of 2 or 3 personnel will be, surveying on the land, and a personnel required, that is crew required, will be more. But usage of the GPS has reduced that crew, that is the person's involvement. A single surveyor can collect the data in the field, where it would take a 2 or 3% screw to achieve the same results using some conventional methods. Then that collected data can be processed to the required accuracy using the computing facilities, and the GPS equipment in the field can be used by the surveyor for rough surveys or the location of the benchmarks or some other features. So the persons required in the conventional techniques are reduced to the minimum persons by the usage of the GPS. Next. And here we have already learned about the differential GPS. Of course, differential and kinematic techniques can provide the accurate real-time information in the field. Can provide the accurate real-time information in the field and obviate the need for post-processing the data, further reducing the cost of the surveying operations. So what is the term obviate meaning? Purposefully I didn't change that word. It is a technical term to be used. Obviate means it is completely removed. It is removing the need for the processing of the data, because on the field itself, by using the differential and kinematic techniques, we are able to locate the objects. So of course it will further reduce the cost of the surveying operations, because again the data collected and sent to the master station and their post processing is in. So all these things are removed from the surveying, so that the further cost also is reduced. And a great deal of sophistication has been brought to the products in the area, and to large extent in the market is mature, with a handful of suppliers well entrenched. Of course, most of the people started using this GPS enabled surveying equipment, so that it has grown up in the market. But while the market for simple surveying in GPS may well be saturated, the use of GPS as an aid for position-based data collection for GIS continues to fuel growth in the market for sophisticated receivers. If the people feels that the GPS cost is more, then for simple surveying applications, they may not go for a GPS enabled surveying. But there is another technology called GIS, that is Geographical Information Systems, which is somewhat more sophisticated, which is helpful for the environmental engineers most of the times. NGRA is there in Hyderabad, National Geophysical Research Institute, and those people will use the technique of GIS, and where they will use the compulsory GPS enabled surveying techniques. Next one is the mapping. So what is mapping? Mapping is by taking the photographs. So a major early implementation of GPS was in the provision of the ground truthing or orientation of the aerial photogrammetry. That is, by viewing with the naked eye, the surveying was done in the early stages. But later on, they have used the sophisticated cameras to capture the original or truth, what is present on that land. This may be by standing on the land, or maybe through the aerial photogrammetry. That is, we use the flights, through the flights we will take the photographs, and that will be sent for the post processing purpose. So this is called as the photogrammetry. So for this purpose, we may use aircraft or spacecraft that are used to photograph large areas of the Earth's surface. Of course, that I already told this point. And some index marks are often surveyed on the ground to provide the reference locations on these photographs. So some index marks are provided, that is surveyed on the ground by taking the aerial photographs. They can be used in determining their scale and orientation. So to what scale they are present and what is their orientation, what is their direction also can be known. And GPS can be used to survey these references. Once these references are surveyed properly, then locating any point with reference to this will become an easy task. Further, the use of these references can be eliminated altogether if the position of the camera can be known accurately enough at the precise moment it took the picture. So again, see the fun. Sometimes if the position of the camera from where the photograph is taken If it is known accurately, then these references may also be eliminated from the mapping technique. And this technology has been developed using GPS augmented by the accurate INS. So inertial navigation system will come into picture here. So inertial systems have excellent short-term stability, but tend to drift over time and require recalibration. This we already studied in INS, inertial navigation systems. So here, the GPS is augmented by the usage of the inertial navigation system, and this will help in the more accurate, mapping technology. Of course, but there may be stability may be less in the survey in the INS. Some changes may happen while using the INS tech equipment. We need to recalibrate them. That is the only thing that is the drawback of the INS. But by contrast, the GPS has its inherent absolute referencing capabilities and can provide excellent augmentation for an INS. So we are using both here, GPS and INS. GPS has its own references. Reference stations are, once they are fixed, means they are accurate. And INS is taking those, using those references, calculating the positions of that, and they will help in the mapping. So these two can be used together in this kind of application. The INS to help resolve the cycle ambiguities inherent in the kinematic method of GPS use, and to carry the positioning duties over the short periods of GPS outage that may occur. So that is, in the kinematic methods, the GPS usage will have to carry the positioning duties for certain duration. So this is eliminated by using of the INS and GPS. And of course, as the time proceeds, as the generation of roadmaps or any other kind of feature map is now extremely easy and achieved simply by recording a series of positions as the receiver is moved over the area to be mapped. When the receiver is moved from one place to the other place, the mapping technique will also be changed. Because with reference to a reference receiver, we are calculating these things. So this can be done over a simultaneous periods of time, and it can be sophisticated. Of course, by this sophisticated processing may be achieved for a desired accuracy. So in this, some specific locations are recorded that may be annotated with location specific information such as street address or elevation or the vegetation type, whether it is vegetation type means whether it is a forest or whether it is a field area or it is some other water content is there, like seas or ponds in small villages. So all these things are recorded, and taking them as the references, the surveying is done. And this type of data collection is useful for building up the data for the GIS, that is Geographical Information Systems. Then the next application of the GPS is in GIS, that is Geographical Information Systems. So GPS in conjunction with the GIS can locate and identify the inventory quickly and accurately. Please make a note of this point. So GPS, so we are integrating these two technologies. On one side GPS and on the other side GIS. So GPS and GPS, when they are integrated, they can identify the inventory quickly and accurately. More accuracy will be present, and speed of operation, speed of finding the location or distance between the two objects is also achieved by the integrity of the GIS and GPS. Of course, for that some GIS software packages and programs are introduced in the GPS technologies. So, of course, this is talking about the US government agencies. Some government agencies and utilities will adopt this technology, but find that The initial input of data timely and timely updating thereof is a huge task using the conventional means of the data collection. So here again, there is a drawback. Who has to take the burden of the updating of the positions? So sometimes we have taken the reference as a pond, and the other time we have taken the reference as a hill, and some other time we have taken a huge banyan tree as a reference. But who has to update this? Who has to adapt this? For this purpose, some government agencies will adopt this technology and they will update this information. But with the GPS, it is possible to capture the position reference data in the field with a simple handheld computer. So in conventional GIS, it was there, but with the GPS, we can take the references then and there itself, and with a simple handheld computer, we can do the calculations. Of course, for this purpose, this can be, for this we can take the example of municipality street lights. So in municipalities, street lights, there may be different types of street lights, like fluorescent lights, sodium lights, mercury lights, some incandescent lights with some different varieties of them. And the municipality people, if there is any kind of light got failure, there is any light failure is there, then they have to replace that. Immediately. How to replace that immediately? So initially those will be calibrated as some reference points. And again, GIS technique is applied with the help of the GPS and by the maintenance engineers, and they can locate easily where the failure has occurred by taking the, of course, photogrammetry also. The maintenance engineers capable of recognizing the types of can be dispatched with a GPS-based data collector. To log the location of each type of installation. This information can be loaded into central database so that when maintenance is necessary, the appropriate replacements can be ordered, stocked, and dispatched. So this is just an example of street lights. So which street light in which street number has failed, and it is in the which pole, because all the information is present in the GPS receiver, because all these are already mapped. So this will enable the GIS technology so that wherever a problem has occurred, that will be notified to the central database, and they can replace the defective one. And one more example is the steel mills. So steel mills will store the large quantities of product in huge yards, stacked in such a way as to prevent the warping. So to prevent the warping, they will use in a huge yards. The stacks may be rotated periodically on a set schedule. Of course, whoever orders, if anybody orders this stack, then that stack may be dispatched on the time. Further, there are different types of products that are indistinguishable from one another, except for the record of where each was put. And in these steel stacks, there are different types. So where each one is put, every time it has to be recorded. And for this purpose, the layout of these yards does not lend itself to physical marking. Physically marking it and going to each one type and picking it, it will become a difficult task. So accurate GPS is used here to locate each stack and reference its contents to a central database. In fact, we can also apply this in our college scenario also. So maybe in the ground. So where each and every point is present, where is football court is present, or where is another court is present. This may be loaded into our college website. You can use the GPS and GIS in conjunction. Of course, uses of the application of the civil engineers and the EC engineers, of course. And the management of other yard inventory items such as shipping containers or Lombard is similar, and GPS application have been investigated here also. So of course, to shift these things to a particular location and find out where that location is present, for that also we are enabling the GPS here. And the next example is environmental impact studies that involve the collection of the large amounts of position related data, and the GIS is prevalent here also. GPS is instrumental in collecting data to provide the input to the animal population studies. So to know in a huge forest, we have to count the number of animals, that is number of lions or number of tigers or some other vegetation. We can take some other vegetation. To count those objects, a tax will be provided to them, and we use the GPS in conjunction with the GIS to count the number of tigers present in a specified area. So this is another type of example for GPS usage in the GIS. And we can also use in the precision farming applications. Precision farming. So what is precision farming? We, of course, in our country like India, we generally use manual techniques. We use the hands, we'll pick up in a bag and we'll spray the pesticides and some other herbicides or fertilizers. But for this purpose, a helicopter is used. For this purpose, a helicopter is used in the, of course, advanced countries like mostly USA, and where, see, the entire crop may not be require the pesticides. Only certain portions, only few plants might be degraded, or only few parts may be infected. And for that, we have to spray the disinfectant. For that purpose, we will use the GPS technology. See how advanced the agriculture is. And that is called as the precision farming. And many farms will implement, the manufacturers are producing variable rate application equipment that is controlled by the sophisticated electronics coupled to a sort of GS. So what is the advantage of this? It has been shown that the material input costs can be reduced by 40%. Material input costs are reduced by the 40%, and yields an enhancement of a similar magnitude can be expected. Of course, the yield, that is after harvesting, the yield also will increase, because if a particular crop is not infected and we are spraying unnecessarily the pesticide on that may damage or that may cause ill healthiness, or crop yield may decrease for that. So wherever the plant there is variation, by taking the photogrammetry here, we can use that technique. Furthermore, the harmful effects of the runoff unneeded fertilizers can be mitigated. That is what I told you just now. And it is possible that a variable application of fertilizers might be legislated for this reason. That is, variable application of the fertilizers. Some fertilizers may uniformly distributed and some fertilizers may non-uniformly be distributed. Sometimes the entire crop needs the fertilization. Then it is easy. But only very specific areas means then this is also useful for us. And several firms offer the products to guide the airborne applications of the pesticides, which involve the customized mapping routines to direct the pilot of the crop duster swath by swath over a particular field. By swath over a particular field. Swath means it's like a helicopter-like machine will be there, and that is called as a crop duster pilot. So crop duster means they will spray the pesticides over the areas, and this will allow the replacement of the flag person. Before implementation of the GPS and GIS, there will be a flag person who will be holding a red flag or a different colored flag that to give the direction to the pilot. So this is the area, they will hoist a flag and they will spray there, and he will move to some other place. So flag persons are removed. Of course, all these things looks somewhat new to us because we have not been come across at this, but in a developed countries, these kind of things are used. This reduces the amount of overspray and can significantly decrease the amount of time and material used. Of course, this obviously will decrease the amount of time and the materials that are user. I will show the video if time permits for us today. Right. And of course, about this, we already learned very recently in our unit 4, precision approach, that is aircraft landing system. So these procedures will give the glide slope guidance to the aircraft on approach. So approach, en route, approach, landing are the terminologies that are used in the aviation. So what is glide path? It is a system of vertical guidance that is embodied in the instrument landing system, which indicates the vertical deviation of the aircraft from its optimum path of descent. So from optimum path of its descent, if there is any vertical deviation is there in the aircraft, that will be informed to the pilot, and that is called as the glide path. That is called as the glide path. Right? So for this purpose, precision landing systems require a better integrity. That is, warnings of a system failure or inaccuracy within the 6 seconds or less. So the time precision is very, very important in aircraft, of course, en routing and approaching system also. So better accuracy is provided by the GPS service that we already know. And Federal Aviation Association of America, so WASP, provides the warning and sufficient accuracy to perform close to the category 1 precision landing requirements. Of course, category 1, category 2, like that, some landing systems are there. For them, accuracy is provided by the use of the GPS. And this will allow about 90% of the airline approaches that are currently performed to use a GPS approach augmented in this way. Category 2 and category 3 approaches involve lower weather minima and also require improved accuracy and integrity warnings, which will be provided by the airport-based differential stations broadcasting GPS corrections directly to the aircraft on approach. So what is approach? Do you remember? We have studied in unit 4. So approach means the aircraft is going to land in an airport. Please make a note of this in your notebook. I think in detail may not be mentioned there. Approach means aircraft is going to land in an airport. Normally, its range starts from a long distance to 25 nautical miles from an airport. So distance is from 20, of course, in the air, the distance is measured in the nautical miles. On land, we measure with the kilometers or miles, but in the air, it is measured with the nautical miles. So from landing station, that is airport, to 25 nautical miles distance. So the position of the aircraft within this distance is the movement of the aircraft is called as the approach. So 90% of the airline approaches are performed using the GPS approach augmented in this way. So whatever we studied till now. And of course, when GPS 3 and Galileo are deployed, there will be both an improvement and overall accuracy and additional integrity. Of course, accuracy and integrity, integration of GPS and Galileo, both the things will be done. So this is precision approach. There is non-precision approach also there before the implementation of the GPS. Of course, but here we will use the precision approach only in the aircraft landing system. And next applications are the military and space applications. So GPS was designed from its inception, of course, in 1960s. The main is to satisfy the military requirements for a worldwide positioning, navigation, and timing service. So only a satellite-based system could ensure the global coverage. Without the usage of the satellites, we cannot ensure the global coverage. And the signals had to be enabled very accurate fixes, had to be resistant to enemy jamming. If enemies also may jam our signals, so we have to withstand even that also. Thus, the military developed user receivers that relied on the what was called as the P code. Of course, we use the P code, which will have encryption with that. So an encrypted P code is called as the Y code, where we use the W code multiplication with the P code. And the modernized GPS will transmit the Y code for existing receivers and transmit the M code for the new receivers. Existing receivers, Y code is it, and for new receivers, they will use the M code. Of course, M code is an even more robust signal whose dispersed spectrum properties allow for allied forces to jam in the band center to interfere with the adversary receivers that are trying to use the C by A code signals without disturbing their own use of the M code. So they are enabling both. They will enable to use the M code and also the C by A code signals. Of course, about this we already learned in our GPS signals. Most of the times used by the military people by the encryption of the P code. And when the code is encrypted, any other person cannot use it because the decryption key will be only with the authorized or authenticated receivers. Of course, the military use of GNS is limited primarily to the GLONASS. GLONASS is, of course, you know that it is European. And however, many of the world's militaries are using the C by A code of the GPS. And authorized users such as NATO forces. NATO is a alliance, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, I think. During the World War II, it has formed all over the world. Of course, some other countries agreed to access are using the GPS P or Y code for their military activities. And it is expected that the Galileo signals will also be used for the military purpose. For the first time, Galileo was not meant for this. It was meant for some other JS application, but later on it is converted into the military people usage. And of course, the commercial people, that is the civil purpose also, the Galileo is used. We have already learned in the unit 4. And they may convert this into the military usage. So first military applications were with man-operated receivers on the ships and other vehicles. So please remember this. The first military application was used by the marine people, that is on the ships, where the receivers are operated with the human beings. As coverage has increased with very new satellite launch and additional applications emerged until the GPS became not only a useful tool, but it became an essential capability for modern network-centered warfare. And what are the military user equipment that are used in, of course, 3 types: air, ship, and land purposes. So this is this company Raytheon is using a GPS receiver, that is MAGR 2000 airborne receiver. This is the original image. What is it from Raytheon has taken this. So the original development of the GPS receivers was accomplished at the Magnavox Research Labs. Shall we proceed or we'll see this tomorrow? Okay, we'll see this tomorrow. Already time is 11:25. Till now, any doubts? Military user equipment, that is aviation, ship, and land. We'll see that in the next class. Till now, any doubts? I'll wait for 2 more minutes. Hello guys, please respond. If you have any doubts, you can talk to me. You can text in the chat box through chat box, or you can raise hand so that I will unmute you. So we have studied today application of GPS in surveying, application of GPS in mapping, and application of GPS in GIS. Of course, in conjunction, both of them are used. And the precision approach aircraft landing system. and military and space applications to be studied in the next class. Military and space applications and ITS, Intelligent Transportation System, will study it in the next class. I hope no doubts are there. Thank you for attending the class. So I am concluding it here. Thank you, one and all.